Good morning.
Hey, yo, what the?
10KT.
Welcome back to another edition of Wild Wednesdays. I am Johnson here in the studio along with our producer Sarge, who is basically our DJ at this point,
Yay.
and Veach joining virtually via Zoom, maybe even Skype these days. Boys, how is everyone doing since we last spoke last week?
I am in one hell of a mood. You are just silky with the intro as always, and Sarge, thank you so much for figuring out all of the technological mishap advancements, whatever phrases you want to throw at it, to allow me to join you from the cave here.
Dude, I'm a fucking hero. Like,
Yeah, you are.
no, dude, just YouTube University, guys, is an unbelievable space. It really is. You can learn anything on YouTube, basically, is what I found out of this. I am going to ask chat, if you cannot hear Veach, please let me know.
Chat,
For the love of
let
God.
us know if you are watching this and you cannot hear Veach joining virtually. We want to make sure that you guys can hear him because we'll have a good discussion. There's been a lot of updates since last week that we got to get into. And I think that's going to segue right into our first topic of stick taps. The first stick tap that I want to give out real quick, fellas, I'll lead off today. Sarge, figuring out how to work in this
Hey,
virtual
what up?
environment. I mean, that's a huge stick tap. So shout out for us getting this show figured out. Now we have just a plethora of different viewers that we can get in, different engagements, and it just opens up a whole different world of technology. So let's go. My actual stick tap that I wrote down is we are about to head into the best time of the year. Veach, Sarge, do you know what happens next week in the state of Minnesota?
Tell me.
Yo, I have no idea.
Minnesota boys high school hockey starts.
Oh!
Ooh,
Tryouts begin next week, and for any of our audience that is about to go into one hell of a week, good luck going into that. And to quote the Hunger Games, may the odds ever be in your favor. Good luck to all the boys, and I believe the girls' season has already started. Good luck to all the ladies out there in their chase to not go to the X, but to play at Grand Casino Arena. That's my stick tap.
what are they going to call it now? You can't say Trek to the X anymore. That doesn't make any more sense. So I'm very curious to see how the Minnesota Hockey Sports Association. I got the acronym wrong there, but you know what I'm saying. How
Yep.
they approach saying Grand Casino Arena and try and separate gambling from high school athletics.
100%. That's actually a very valid point. I didn't even think about that. I also don't think we can use our term of head on down to the G spot.
Nope.
Pretty sure that's going to have some parents pretty upset. So I think we'll have to pull the creative brains together to figure out what the saying is for this year's rendition of the state tournament. So
Well, here's what's going to happen. All the kids from Edina are just going to have a parade of G-Wagons. They're just going to call it the G-Wagon all the way down to Grand Casino Arena. But when we're talking about these kids from Section 7, 8, maybe even 6, you can probably not get away with that. There's not too many. I don't know if there is a G-Wagon in any of the counties in those sections.
No way.
My own home county included.
Not a chance.
that's very true. That's very true. Sarge, you want to go next? I think Veach let us off last time, so
Yeah.
let's go a little change up of the batting order.
I got two stick taps. One is for Sydney Sweeney's left hit, and the other one's for the right. Guys, what a rack! And see-through dresses. My God.
Is that high fashion? Is that considered like
Wow. I mean, I don't even know what that was for, but I'm glad she did it. Serious question, like, is there a show or a movie that she was in where I can see without the see-through dress? Like, is there anything that I could see him in real life?
don't pretend like you don't already know the answer to this.
I don't. I swear to God, that's why I'm asking. I don't
This guy's
know.
never watched Euphoria.
I was
I
gonna
have
say
not.
that I even knew that, and I haven't even seen the show.
Dude, Euphoria is just not my type of show, but I think it is my type of show now
You don't
because
like teenagers doing drugs? I don't either, for the record, but that's basically the show.
okay, well, my God, guys, did she ever know what she was doing there? I mean, she knows she's hot, and my God, wow, that broke the internet and broke my brain.
Tell you what, there's photos of me in a I don't even know if you call it a knit shirt. It's quite see-through as well. I don't know that it would rival what she had going on there either, but it prevents me from criticizing her fashion choices. Not that I ever would anyway. So
Veach, what,
yeah, I got no arguments here.
is the shirt you're referring to? Is it like the guy from 50 First Dates? The guy from Lord of the Rings? You know how he's out there? I don't know if you guys have seen that movie.
Rudy?
Yeah, Rudy.
Yeah, it's the same, basically the same shirt.
That's hilarious. That is epic. Sarge,
That
you
was
might.
funny to me thinking that Samwise Gamgee is the same as Rudy, and it just
Frodo. Sarge, that might have to be the clip for this week's show. You might have to get that and then drop an overlay of some Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. That'd be a good one.
Samwise Gamgee.
All right, Veach, let's get back to you on stick taps before we get off the rails.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it back into the sports world here. Stick taps, all out to the entire Jets organization for realizing that they just suck. They're gonna suck for the foreseeable future unless they make some changes. Made the trade deadline fun. You got some sellers there, Quentin Johnson and Sauce Gardner going to where did Quentin go?
Dallas.
Yep.
Dallas and the Colts respectively, 1 and 2 there. Got some good picks out of it. I think that's probably the best course of action for them. Other franchises should probably follow that lead. They didn't this year, but hopefully they can become competitive again. But I'm secretly rooting that they don't, and some teams just never will be. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes from there. But shout out to the Jets organization and making some sort of moves, trying.
Yeah, and shout out to Tyrus
Yep.
for one of the behind the scenes guys here at 10K Takes. He runs our main account and does a lot of Wolves stat stuff. But he's very sad right now. So keep Tyrus in your thoughts and prayers.
Hey, they kept Brees Hall though, so that's one thing going for the Jets.
I did see that he had posted a video or a GIF for the people that want to be, phonetically correct according to the wrong guy that, whatever, he invented it. But I'm getting off track. He had posted something where it was, I couldn't tell if it was longingly looking like, oh God, I want to be traded as well, or oh man, I hope I'm not also traded. And I'm still not sure which way I'm leaning as to what he was intending with that. And maybe it already came out that he commented on it, but I got a good chuckle out of it when he was posting that after the other 2 announcements of the trades.
Well, I saw today on X that Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, and someone else from the Jets. I don't know if this is true. I'm sure it's super easy to Photoshop, but there's a group chat going around, and they were all like so thankful that they were outside of the Jets org. And I was like, if that's actually a true leak of that group chat, oh boy, the Jets are just they're just a sad franchise. So
everybody's always commenting on, the public perception and the media and everything else coverage in New York. And I get it, like it is a thing, but at what point does that organization just limit the amount of media members they let in and the stories that get out and just all of that for the betterment of the organization? Because if that's what everybody constantly pinpoints as one of the hardships of being an athlete in New York, if you take that away, doesn't that make living there and not having to deal with it like way more attractive for everybody? Like it seems like a no-brainer to me to just limit the amount of people that are going in there.
I
News
would
is getting
think
out
so.
nationally no matter what.
right, yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same thing in like the hockey world with Toronto, right? Like everything.
Same, exact, yeah.
Like that's the best comparison that I can think of. Just bringing it back to hockey, like that's got to be so tough. Like, just like obviously hockey is a very physical game, so is football. But then like the mental part of it, where you have to go out there to hundreds of media members as opposed to, hey, if you're, I mean, maybe Minnesota's not the best comparison, but
There's
maybe
a
it's
middle ground.
maybe it's 50, members of the media that are out there. So it is just crazy. I feel like that would be a plus, or maybe go down to Florida or Texas or another state where hockey is on the up and up, but not as a high priority because those states are more like football or basketball school states. So
Yeah.
all right, let's talk about Take a Lap. So what from the week has an opportunity to improve? I'll kick us off here. My Take a Lap this week are streaming services. You guys might have seen the news about YouTube TV and the 4-letter network that's associated with Disney, aka ESPN. They are having some issues with ESPN viewership being included on YouTube TV and not being a part of that package anymore. And so I did some math here, and so don't take this as a source of truth, but I'm not a math guy.
Noted math guy. Yeah.
I'm a communications major, so I can talk. But if you were to get essentially every streaming service for the major platforms out there, this is with ads. So this is the lowest tier possible.
Okay.
It's about $66 a month. Now,
That's cheaper than I thought.
yeah, I
As
was like,
well.
oh, that's not terrible.
I have a question though. When you're saying major streaming, you're not including things like Peacock or
Nope, Peacock's included.
Paramount.
So it's Netflix,
Okay.
Peacock, Paramount, HBO, ESPN
Hulu?
Plus, Hulu, Disney Plus. I feel like I'm missing one more.
That's disgusting. That's way too many.
That's another part of this conversation that I want to get into. But then what I did is, because I also, Veach, I agree. I didn't think that was terrible. If you don't mind commercials, great. That's fine. That seems fairly reasonable. The issue that I have with that is a lot of these base level packages don't include live sports. So that's an issue because for me, I want to watch sports. I want to consume every single game. The other issue is a lot of the times these different companies will black out the local games. So if I was to, hey, ESPN Plus is showing the Minnesota Wild game, I wouldn't get that because of where I live. Now, what I thought was interesting, we can talk about cable TV in a second, but if you went up to the next level of package, so for, again, same streaming services, but you don't like to see ads, it's about $125 a month is what my math computed. So about double the cost of without ads. But again, you aren't getting live sports. And so my Take Lap is these streaming services that are hungry for business, that aren't showing what sports fanatics truly want. I don't know if you guys have any takes on this, but would just be curious to hear your thoughts.
I've got a couple of thoughts. One, that's absurd that it doubles it just to not have ads. But two, might also be worth it because what I've found recently is when I'm watching long form content, specifically on YouTube, so it might not pertain to the ones that you're talking about right now anyway, but every 3 minutes on two different channels I visit pretty frequently, every 3 minutes there is an ad, and it's the same ad that plays over and over and over again. And then eventually you have to say, oh, I'm not interested in this ad, put a different one up there. And that one will play over and over and over again. And when you're seeing that ad every 3 minutes for at a minimum of 20 seconds or whenever before you can click the skip button, it drives you a little bit mental. And so whatever the cost for that is becoming closer and closer to acceptable for me to pay, to not have to see that or deal with it over and over again. And that's driving me, and this is probably why they do it, that's driving me to say, oh, I'm going to watch this live or I'm not going to watch it at all because I'm just not dealing with those ads. So there's a part of me that's saying that's crazy, and there's a part of me that's saying it's totally worth it, and I'm not sure which one is dumber. But yeah, that's where I stand right now. I think Big Cat and a lot of the guys at Barstool have been on the bring cable back bandwagon for a very long time.
Same.
We are getting so close to them being 100% and irrefutably right. We're on that border right now of, oh, everybody should just transfer back to that. And as somebody who leeches off DirecTV from, two different sets of family members, depending on which state I want to be watching sports games in, I think they're absolutely right. And I don't even have all the stuff that they do. So yeah, I'm fully and 100% back in on cutting all streaming and going right back to everybody watching the same shows and only having what's on cable or satellite or whatever the broadcast networks want to put out.
It's just crazy to me. Like growing up, just flipping on ESPN or NHL Network. Shout out mom and dad for having the Xfinity secondary package, sports
It was
package.
Comcast back then. Johns.
Comcast at the time, and for me to get my fulfillment of sports. But I mean, like, I don't know what it would take for all these companies to come together and just be like, yeah, we're gonna create just a sports streaming service. I know that obviously there's different, I mean, Amazon's getting into the mix now, but there's all these, and I think that was actually one of the streaming platforms I did not say, but also included into this. It's all these different, like, compromises between these companies and then the sports league that is just driving the cost up and up and up. And it's coming to a point where it's like, it's probably close to flat of just having cable as opposed to streaming services. So that's my take a lap for the week. We can stop with the streaming services because I could bitch about this for the rest of the show. I had more notes.
We could do an hour on that
but
alone.
It's just so annoying. And then okay, one more thing. Flipping between streaming services too. So
The worst.
Freaking annoying. Just starting from scratch, having to log in, get back into your profile, making sure that you can watch your previous shows and pick up right where you left. It's just so annoying. Someone smarter than me needs to figure this shit out and get on board with getting sports included on one streaming service platform. I will pay for that. Sarge, let's go over to you. Take a lap.
Yeah, my take a lap is these motherfucking fantasy football gods that are fucking me over in one of my fantasy leagues. I have the third most points in this league, most points against, and I'm in last place. And so Johnson and I are in a punishment league, and the punishment is getting a horrible spray tan. I won the league last year. I had to include that, by the way, because I'm so proud of it. Got the trophy on my desk right now.
Stick tap,
baby. But I'm getting fucked over. I'm getting absolutely fucked, and this is bullshit. And I need the fantasy football gods to take a fucking lap and let me fucking win one of these goddamn weeks. I'm averaging 135 points a week, and I'm in last place, dude. What the fuck?
I feel that on a spiritual level for multiple reasons. At the same time, you with a really bad spray tan, I'm thinking like, I'm trying to stay within our demographic here, and I'm trying not to reference Seinfeld because I don't know that kids
That's true.
recognize what Seinfeld
What's
even is.
Seinfeld?
Us 34-year-olds are definitely in the Seinfeld realm.
Oh yeah, like Kramer when he turns into the turkey in that one episode.
Yep.
Like, that's what I'm thinking that you're gonna look like with this spray tan, and that's got me so excited.
Yeah, we're talking bodybuilder, like about to compete type of spray tan here. Like,
Honestly, just add that to it. If you have to do it, sign up for a bodybuilding competition and go.
Dude.
Like, don't bodybuild, just go.
yeah, dude, I seriously,
That would be disgusting.
dude. It would, yeah. But I'm this week will definitely let me know. Like, I play the number one team in the league, very good team. I'm probably gonna lose again in another bullshit. They score 170 points. Like we played Johnson. Didn't you score 170 points on me? I'm pretty sure you
I did. It was that
Yeah.
Julio Jones game when he had like 56
Yeah.
points.
But I mean, dude, this sucks. I'm officially nervous. You look at my team, you're like, wow, this is a good team. And by the way, I'm in third in the points. Like, from third to first, it's only 30 points. So I'm basically the most points in the league, and I'm in fucking last. So
Tough.
Yeah.
take a lap, fantasy football
R.I.P.
gods.
and not that you have super pasty skin, but R.I.P. to your pastiness
Yeah, I'm
that
fucking
currently
screwed.
exists. Veach,
Yeah.
you want to round us out for Take a Lap, and then we'll jump into the Wild previous games.
Yeah, my last take a lap is pretty on par or expected for somebody that like me that follows the NCHC in particular, but college hockey in general. People not ranking or respecting Miami. I think that it's insane after splitting with Arizona State and a 7-1 record, which is among the best in college hockey. Let me check quick. Yep, the top 3 teams in the nation all also only have 1 loss. Yes, the competition has been different, but they've some of these other top 10 teams have lost to absolute nobodies, and Miami has not. Their one loss here is to Arizona State, which they split with last weekend, and Arizona State is receiving votes in both of the national polls that people reference. So to have them unranked in one of them, they are ranked in, I believe it's the USA Hockey poll, but to have them unranked in the USCHO poll and some of the other people's polls is absolutely insane to me. The story that they have right now in eclipsing their win total from last year and, coming from where they did a year ago to where they are at right now, seemingly before we start, a lot more NCHC play, is crazy. And I think you have to give them their flowers while you can. I don't expect it'll be a super long and sustained run of being competitive for this ranking spot, just given the arduous task of the NCHC schedule. But I think they 100% deserve it now. So shame on those that did not rank them this week while they could.
Shame.
Ding, 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 ding.
Veach, how was your take a lap not you for bonking your noggin? Everyone's seen that scar. How the fuck is that not your take a lap? That was gonna be my take lap. I thought for sure that would be yours, but it's not.
It's not. It's more of me just being a dummy. My father-in-law was here last weekend and all week until now, helping out with the baby and just getting some stuff done around the house. And so we were in, I don't want to say manic cleaning mode, but we were getting a lot of stuff done. Credit to him. But we were messing around up in the attic of the garage, and there's just 2x4s and stuff that I'm like pushing as I'm going up the ladder, and then I got a little bit too fast and over my skis here, and I was just going up at Mach 100, thinking that I was going to be able to push this 2x4 out of the way. Well, hand slips off of it. Turns out it was nailed down to the rafters and just went dome first right into it there. So yeah, looking a little bit like Frankenstein there. Unfortunately, not part of the Halloween costume over the past weekend here. But yeah, it did not feel good, and it's healing slower than I thought it would.
Is it white blood cells that heal stuff, or am I making shit up?
I think white blood cells block it and start like patching it.
Okay.
And red blood cells carry oxygen, if I'm remembering correctly, but not a biology major. Don't know.
Maybe we need to watch Osmosis Jones again and figure all that.
Classic movie.
What a classic
Great.
movie, dude.
Great.
Once
movie.
again, dating our age, fellas.
Yeah, the youngins don't know about Osmosis Jones, but they should.
100%. I mean, you can learn more from that than you can in high school. Just kidding.
Oh, well, depends on
Depends.
which high school you go to.
That's very true. All right, let's get into the big segment of the show and why we're here on Wild Wednesdays. Let's talk some Wild hockey and go over the past couple of games. So since we last spoke, the Wild had 3 games. We can start off with the big fat L to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are just on an absolute tear to begin the season. The Wild lost 4-1. Kaprizov scoring the lone Wild goal, his 7th of the year at the time. Gus had 30 saves on 33 shots. Wild penalty kill, which we talked about last week, went 0 for 1. And the power play, surprisingly, went 0 for 4. The good news is the Wild did get off to a fast start, scoring the first goal in this game, which had been a previous issue that we outlined last week. But we'll open up the discussion there, have some notes that we can, or discussion points that we can get into. But let's talk about the Penguins game. I will be very transparent. I did not watch any games this past week because I was in Wisconsin. And so as you can imagine, Wisconsin, Badgers, Packers, Bucks, and basically anything other than Minnesota sports get priority. So let's open up the discussion there, and then I can get into some notes that I had.
Yeah, the biggest note that I had there was one that you had mentioned. The Wild scoring first, Kirill Kaprizov putting it in the back of the net midway through the first, I believe, on that one, and then just completely shut down everything from that point forward as far as the Wild offensive opportunities go. A couple instances that you could argue were good chances there, but they just did not have it going. I think the game script played out exactly like we said it would. It was the monsters of Pittsburgh kind of having their way with Minnesota. Maybe not the people we thought. I mean, we ranted and raved about Sid and Gino and their ability to just produce in the year 2025 when they're of retirement age by NHL standards, and it was other guys that ended up stepping up and just producing that throttling in place of them instead. So not a lot to kind of talk about this one. There wasn't much as far as positives to take away from it. You mentioned the lack of production on the power play and the inability to produce anything well as far as penalty kills go. So it's like, all right, well, we'll just get them on the next one, and maybe they'll be able to do that. But it was one that I was happy to move on from quickly.
Yeah, just a couple of notes on the Penguins game, and I think we can probably quickly transition to the Canucks game because that brings some happier memories from the past week. But the first Penguins goal, when I was watching the highlights from this game, I believe it was Hartman or Hartsey had shoved a Penguins player into our net, and there wasn't much that Gus could do from what I saw. Unfortunately, the player got back, so that he wasn't interfering with the play, so it wouldn't have been a goalie interference call. But an issue that I have, and I see this at high school hockey, is, I love the physicality, but I have never understood why players push the offensive team or the attacking team into the goal crease. Like, keep them out there, like not that I love this analogy, but I'm going to use it. Box the fuck out, use your body, and keep the guy away from the goalie. It seems simple in theory, but that was frustrating to see, and just letting the guy go crash into our zone, then let him reestablish position so that it wouldn't be goalie interference. I don't really understand that. I never have. I don't think my brain will ever comprehend that. It seems like that's just like the danger zone. Keep the guys in front of you is always what I was told from a defensive perspective. Don't let guys get behind you. So that was one note that I had there. The second note that I had was the second Penguins goal, and most of my notes are related to the Penguins scoring. So
there's not much for notes as far as the other way.
Yeah. The second Penguins goal was a backdoor tap in from the point. It was actually a beautiful play. Brodin got beat on that play. It was really disappointing to see because analyzing it from a coaching perspective, that's an easy solve. Pick up the stick. You do a slight little stick lift. That tip probably misses, goes wide, goes into a place where, and we lost Veach, but I'll continue on here.
Yeah.
Brodin just didn't pick up his stick. So easy backdoor tap in from the point. Again, probably a very, very preventable goal while we get Veach back in here.
He's back.
Veach is back. We didn't lose him. And then the third Penguins goal took a weird Kareem off the boards, and then it just kind of bounced around and found a player who was just open. So disappointing kind of defensive performance. Bummer of a game for sure, but we still had 2 games left, and so I think we can talk a little bit more about the exciting game, which was the Wild win against the Canucks. The Wild won 5-2. Notes that I had, or at least stat lines, Tarasenko scored his second of the year, which was a crazy play. I don't know if either of you guys saw the highlight, but Joel Eriksson Ek, he had, I don't know if he was actually trying to deflect this bouncing puck in midair over to him. Sure as hell looked like it, but was able to feed him, and then Tarasenko just made a move to his backhand to slide it past the goalie. So beautiful goal there. Rossi scored his third of the year. Hinostroza scored his first. Brodin got his second. Hartman got his fourth. And then the Wild power play went 33% that game. So we can open up the discussion on a nice win against the Canucks, gaining 2 points in the standings.
Couple of positives. Goals from 5 completely different players, so you're not relying on one person or 2 people to get all of the goals for the hockey team. As a UMD fan and a Wild fan this year, it was a nice change of pace. We didn't have to have Kaprizov or Boldy or one of the guys that's been towing the team on their back, putting it in for them. So I like to see that. What you had mentioned there is at the beginning on the Tarasenko goal, the ability that these NHL players have to tip pucks exactly where they want them
It's
to go
insane.
is something I'll never understand. Like I will get a tip one off the ice. Obviously, it's very very easy to do, but every once in a while, if it's on the left side as a lefty player, it's pretty easy to get it down. But in order to angle it where you want to go, and even like the rate at which it descends or ascends from your tipping position there is insane to me that they have any control over that whatsoever. But I see week in and week out these guys getting it to another player or to a hole in the net. And to see the hole in the net with your peripheral vision at the very best at lightning speed is crazy to me. It's something that will always impress me every single time when I see a highlight. Yes, to some people, they're all going to look the same. And maybe that's what I see when I see a basketball player dunk it. Those all look identical to me. Maybe that's more impressive than I think it is. It's not. Tipping these pucks that are going 100 miles an hour into the net, into an area that's probably, this big, is crazy. I think it is one of the hardest things to do in sports. It rivals hitting a baseball. They're coming at, pretty close to the same speed. So shout out to the guys that can do it and do it well. And in that instance, I believe you said it was Eriksson Ek that was able to get it over to Tarasenko for the goal there. Love it.
And Veach, to build off that point, with a smaller utensil to use.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's very true. It was a sick goal, but the just the hand-eye coordination of these guys is unreal.
Yeah.
A couple other notes that I had, and we can open it up to discussion. The Canucks' first goal came off an offensive zone turnover. Big rebound off of Gus. We talked about this last week, but goalie's responsibility is to put pucks in the corner or up into the net to get just a little break in the play. Went right to the slot. Canucks player put it back in. I didn't take note of who it was. Second Wild goal, I thought this was interesting. Elias Pettersson got kicked out of the offensive zone faceoff, and then Rossi had picked up the puck, got a rebound from the point and just buried it. So nice to see him producing, especially with his contract extension that he signed earlier this year. Obviously, I think we're expecting a little bit more, considering that this was only his third goal, is what I said earlier. Third goal, Hinostroza just was able to get one past Demko. It hit his glove and trickled in. So we'll take it. A goal is a goal at the end of the day. They all count the same. And then the fourth goal was just a terrible angle against Demko. Brodin somehow was able to sneak it past him. And so was excited to see him on the score sheet. And then the second Canucks goal was off a set defensive zone play. The center won it back to, it would have been the weak side winger. The winger was able to pick up the puck and just scored. What I noticed here is from a defensive zone play is we didn't get our winger up to cover that shooter. That's a pretty normal play even at the high school level, is winning it back to your winger. Typically they'll be on their strong side so that they can just shoot it basically for what we would call a one-timer. But bummer to see that just from a defensive zone. That seemed like the defensive zone there just missed an opportunity to cover up a guy and take that away. Veach, Sarge, I don't know if you guys had any other notes on the Canucks win. Or, yeah.
Yeah, the Canucks were fucking injured. Yep. So you got, good thing they buried them. They needed to do that, especially
100%.
The Wild were desperate for a win at this time. They had to get it done. They got it done. Took care of business, baby.
Win's a win. 2
Wins
points.
a win. The only other thing I would add to that, and we talked about Tarasenko's goal there, but he was a big part in at least two of the other goals. I think he had 2 assists in addition to the goal. So 3-point night from him. A lot of people at the beginning, first 10 games of the season, they were like, "Oh well, what the heck did we bring this guy in for? He's supposed to be getting points and producing goals, and scoring doesn't always have to be goals. If you're a key piece in getting goals for other guys, I'll take that every day of the week." And he's been doing that as of late, and so I'm liking what I'm seeing for the price that we're paying for him.
Yeah, it seems like he's starting to maybe find his stride
Yeah.
on this team and seeing where he fits in. I think he can still be maybe not a game breaker like he was back with St. Louis, but I think maybe more asserting himself into a second line, maybe even a third line guy that can produce depending on when Zucky gets back. But it definitely nice to see him on the score sheet more and more. And Veach, you said it earlier, but it was really nice to see some of the kind of the secondary scoring guys you could get on the score sheet and not rely on Kaprizov or Boldy. So I think we can talk about last night's crazy overtime win, which has a lot of discussion points, and our thumbnail kind of alluded to this. But you absolutely cannot kick the net off if you are a goalie. We'll talk about that here in a second, but the Wild won last night 3-2 in overtime against the Predators. Shout out me. I said the Wild were going to lose in overtime to the Predators last week, so almost had the prediction down. Close but no cigar. Kaprizov got his 8th of the year last night on the power play. Buyum, his 3rd goal of the year on the power play. And then Marcus Johansson was credited with the overtime winner for his 6th goal of the year. Gus Bus, an outstanding game. 32 saves on 34 shots. Power play went 2 of 3, so the power play continues to click. And the Wild penalty kill was a whopping 100%, which was nice to see. Before we talk about overtime, any thoughts on just how the game went? Anything that you noticed? I only got to watch the 3rd period last night, so didn't see the first 2 periods on that.
Yeah, I think the first regulation goal for Nashville, inability to get it out of the zone, turnover basically at the blue line, and then a free rush into the net for Nashville. Didn't like seeing that. Those are some of the things that have plagued this team in the past. And so to see that kind of bubble up and result immediately in a goal put me in a bit of a sour mood to begin with, because that was to tie it up at that point. And so didn't like that. And then Buyum's goal goes right back to what we were just talking about, the ability to get a tip from the front of the net and to get it to go in. Not necessarily who you would think would be able to do that as a defensive player. I can't imagine he's the one practicing being net front all that often, but still able to do it. And I loved seeing it. If that's the type of goals he's going to get, that's great. There was a couple of different instances where I saw him carrying it into the net, or not into the net, into the zone, like we were talking about. I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago. His propensity for doing so, it hasn't gone anywhere, despite the fact that it hasn't always been successful. I think that that's still going to be a successful maneuver in the future. And then second to last but not least, we'll get into the overtime there in a little bit. But the Stamkos goal. On our group chat, I had said with 46 seconds left or whatever it was, when there was a stoppage of time, if the Wild don't win in regulation, I'm gonna, I don't know, remember what I said. I was furious because I could see it happening. I said online and in that text message, not only have I seen this movie before, I own it on VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray, and I see it in my nightmares over and over again. And sure thing, it comes to fruition where Stamkos gets a shot and it goes in. 0.3 seconds left. Shout out the Gophers over North Dakota, but it's one of those situations where you can see it on the writing's on the wall. And where it was really clear to me when it was going to happen was even before the face-off. It was when Boldy was coming down and had 2 separate shots with the puck on his stick towards the net. One, I think, got blocked into the corner, and he got another one in the slot, and he had his stick lifted before he could get the shot off. And I was like, all right, well, momentum has fully shifted to the Preds, and it's going to be, a battle to try and survive. And that's exactly what happened. Turns out Ecker gets it in the corner, isn't able, I think he was probably trying to get it off of the glass and out. And I don't know if it just went off the boards or a ref skate or whatever it ended up getting. straight to the point, right over to Stammer, who's wide open for that, shot from what should be Ovi's office on every NHL rink there, and directly into the back of the net. And it was just, you could see it happening as it was happening or before it happened there. And all it would have taken was rifling that puck down the ice completely. It could cross the blue line or the goal line on the opposite side there, and icing would not have been able to be called in the amount of time that was left in the game. And mental mistakes or inability to clear the zone for whatever reason results in loss of a point in the game itself, which is tough. But getting the overtime win, there's something to hang your hat on, and credit to the Wild for battling back and at least getting the extra one.
Yeah, I think just one quick note on Zeev, and then we can talk about overtime. What I found interesting is he's averaging 15 minutes or so of ice time and some odd change a game.
Yep.
I would love to see an uptick of that. I think his uncanny ability to make plays at the right time, and I'm taking his defensive opportunities completely out of this scenario.
That's what I was going to bring up.
The offensive side of his game is, I don't remember a Wild defenseman ever having this ability to make plays, score, not necessarily at will, but with higher frequency than what we've had. I almost wonder if you bump up his playing time, or if that's something that Hines will consider, just with how he's producing. I think I saw on X today, he is projected to have 53, 54 points. Don't quote me on that, which would be higher than Faber's rookie season. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on that, Veach, but would love to hear if you have any thoughts on Bouillam's playing time.
Yeah, I think you got to be selective about where you do it. You had mentioned his offensive propensity, and I had talked about it earlier. I think that is clear and obvious to anybody that has watched him play in college or has watched him play so far in the NHL. He's got a special talent on the offensive and the attacking side of the puck. Where he is lacking in the NHL, where he didn't in college, is that defensive side that you had just mentioned. I just checked here, minus 11 player this year, despite having 9 points himself. So that goes to show you that there is some sort of a breakdown in the defensive side of his responsibilities there. And as a defensive player, pretty tough to argue for a lot more time with those statistics kind of looming over you. So yes, I do think that there is a positive or a bright side or something to build on with his offensive, abilities there. If that means it's just strictly power play, so be it. Taking time away from somebody like a Faber or traditionally other players who might be on the power play is going to be really tough. But you might have to try it out, especially if they're still struggling to get things going. Unfortunately for him in this argument, I don't know that their power play is struggling right now. They've been productive.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that they need to be doing something different in that aspect. So if that changes, maybe we do see him on that offensive side and giving some of those more opportunities in the future.
Do you know who he kind of reminds me of? Is like a Shane Gostisbehere. Like,
what a name pull.
Yeah, like he's super good
analogy.
offensively, might not be the best defensively. Like, the way he walks the blue line is really something to watch,
Yeah.
man. He looks really confident with the puck, just walking that line. I obviously don't watch as much Wild hockey, but when so far of what I've seen, it's pretty impressive. He skates like the wind too, super confident. So you like that, and I feel like defense is one of those things you can kind of teach more than offense. So I think you got to give him some time, and then I think he'll be fine. You got to be pretty happy with what you got or what you've seen so far. Obviously, minus 11 is ass, but I think that's not going to be what his year is going to be, if you had to ask me as an outsider looking in.
No,
He'll get better on the defensive side for sure. You're absolutely right in terms of ability to teach defense versus skill and just natural ability with the puck on your stick. That's something that you can build on, but some guys have it and some guys don't. He's got it. He just needs to be a little bit more aware of the NHL style schemes and physicality that might not have existed in all the games that he was more used to still.
Yeah, how old, isn't he 20? Like he's not even he could potentially not even be full grown yet. Like you're talking to someone who didn't
I
hit
don't know if he
puberty until
turned
like
21 or
24.
not, but yeah, he's certainly on the younger side.
But,
He is 19 years old.
yeah,
He will be
so he's not even
20 December 7th.
yeah, so he's not even a grown ass man yet. So he'll definitely get stronger, and then usually when you get stronger, you get tougher, and then I wouldn't be too worried.
No.
No.
He'll age like a fine wine. You know,
100%.
the older it is, the better it's supposed to taste, so they say. But let's talk quickly about overtime. I think overtime was a perfect disclaimer for tonight's show. It was it didn't happen on Wednesday, but it was a pretty wild series of events that took place for the Wild to garner that extra point. Crazy. So for those of you that didn't watch or didn't get a chance to see, the Nashville Predators goalie kicked the net off, and the refs called a goal. And according to X today, it was a hot topic last night. Shout out the store. If you guys want to sponsor us, would love some hot topic clothing items.
Yeah, maybe
Circa
in freshman year of high school.
Yeah, circa 2008. But
Oh, okay. 2004 for me. Whatever, keep
okay,
going.
well that's what we got the old man crew on tonight. But with that, Johansson credited with the goal. Kind of just a crazy, I don't know if you want to call it even a media outlash, but just a lot of questions about what constitutes as a goal there. And so, Sarge, I would love to start off with you being our referee in studio.
Yeah,
What
dude.
were your thoughts from a refereeing perspective? I don't know if you have any notes or if you've ever seen something like that, but would love to hear your
So
thoughts.
I do follow a ref on Twitter. He was on Spit and Chicklets, and I cannot fucking remember his name. And a smart person would have bookmarked his tweet, but I didn't do that. I just looked. So I fucked up. That's on me, guys. My bad. But from what he was explaining was since it was a deliberate push off the net, because it was, I will not hear that he didn't do that on purpose. That looked very intentional.
I would have said you could make the argument if he didn't also have his arm up and pushing the net. If it was just his foot, that's one thing. When you've got the arm and the foot both going at the same time, it's completely different.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So let me ask you this: was the goalie pushing off the net earlier in this game? Did that happen at all? Because
He has a propensity for doing it. I don't recall whether or not it had happened during the game.
so he has a
but-
history, okay.
Yeah.
But it looked extremely deliberate, and in theory, kind of a smart play because he knew he was fucked.
Oh yeah, he was beat on the far side with no help.
So what this ref was saying is, since it was deliberate, and it wasn't like I don't think it had anything to do with the net not being completely off. Obviously, one post was still in play, but since it was deliberate, the play was going to go on until, whoever got the puck, Nashville got the puck possession back. But since that didn't happen, everything
I think
was fine.
with these, Nashville doesn't even have to have the puck. It just has to be an imminent scoring chance. If the Wild
was.
passed back to the D, yeah, right.
Yep.
If the Wild had passed it, the opposite side of the net or whatever, then I think they blow their whistle immediately. But
Yeah.
because Mojo was sitting on the back side there with nobody around him and already made the shooting motion, I think continue with your point.
Yeah.
Sorry. I cut you
So,
off.
my initial thought was, since Mojo missed his first opportunity, I thought the play would be dead because he hit the side of the net. But then he
the
gained.
side of the net that wouldn't have been there had it not been off is what
Yeah.
some people are saying.
Yeah, and I think he would have missed the net regardless of wherever
Oh,
the
no
net
faith.
was. Like it was obviously definitely off one of the moorings. But then he gained their possession again fast, and then obviously just like shot into the back of the boards where the net was. But it ended up being a good goal. I would have loved to see this in the playoffs because it would have been even a bigger
A
deal.
mess.
This would have been crazy if
It
this
sets
happened.
a precedent.
Yes, exactly. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen in the future if this does happen again. I've never seen anything like it.
No. It was wild.
So it has happened before. It hasn't been as egregious as this. More often than not, you'll see a plate or a post come off, and the net will just be sitting slightly ajar, and the puck will still go back in the back of the net. This is one of the cases where the net is completely 90 degrees from where it's originally supposed to be. We're shooting a puck into nothing, and the goalie and the Nashville team is not even making an attempt at that point to adjust and try and save it, which is silly on their part, because if they know the rules, they know that can happen. So, and the whistle had not blown. I don't know if you're as a coach and as a referee, play till the whistle. That's what I've always been told,
right?
And that's what everybody should always do. So, kind of crazy in my opinion. I did think it was very interesting. We talked about some of the discourse online to see what reporters like the Wild, what reporters hate the Wild, or vice versa for the Predators, because there was a very clear divide as to what people were seeing, what they wanted to see in this specific scenario. And some people were saying it's the most egregious and heinous call that they've seen. And some people were saying, oh no, this is absolutely what should have been called. And some were even saying, oh, this is retribution for all the poor calls and random things that happened to the Wild. And to that, I will say this does not nearly make up for everything that happened to the Wild. But it's a start. It's a start. But yeah, it was very funny to see Russo specifically go back at some of the guys and reference the specific article and point in the rule book that states exactly what was going on. And credit to the ref that was in the corner there that had made the judgment call on the ice in split second time, because it turned out to be the correct one, and one that was very defensible in the long term. And I will say, understandably upset from the Nashville bench, and you can and have seen in the past refs blow the whistle immediately. That's at their discretion. It was just the discretion of these refs that the play should continue, and in my opinion, that was the right call.
It was.
Yep.
It was. So USA Hockey, which I ref, is completely different rules. You blow the whistle immediately in those situations. What I would have done if that was USA Hockey, I would have called a penalty on that goalie for delay a game, no question, because that was so deliberate. But shout out Ty here. Do you remember a couple years ago when Maple Leafs Tandy kept doing it three times in one game against the Wild? I don't. Do you guys?
Sounds vaguely familiar.
It kind of does, but the trouble that I'm wrapping my head around is who was the Maple Leafs goalie at that time. I don't think it was Freddie.
I have no idea, dude.
I don't
I'd have
remember.
to define a couple of years ago, because when I say a couple of years, it could be a decade ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was 2015. Ty, drop in the goalie's name in the chat. Pull that for us, and maybe it'll ring a little bit more of a bell. So with that, again, nice win last night from the Wild. Totals from the week, I believe, if I have it correct, the Wild got 4 points from the week. And they are currently 3 points out of playoffs. I don't know if there's any other talking points that we want to go over from this past week of games before we look at what's upcoming.
The only other talking point. The only other talking point that I had was the third period for the Wild is becoming a problem in my eyes here. They become either complacent or don't have the fight to get back into a game. Against Pittsburgh, it was 16-8 on shots. Vancouver was 12-8, and then even against Nashville there, when they had a lead that they were trying to maintain, it was 9-8. So getting outshot 37-24 in the last 3 games in that third period, and the play on the ice kind of reflects that almost perfectly, in my opinion. And it's something that I've seen as a problem in the long term is holding on to leads, one, but the inability to come back as being another one. So figuring out a way to get guys to come back for those third period shifts and just kind of rally the troops needs to happen. And then the last thing there, Gustafsson, I believe, is second in the league in shots against right now. So he's going to need a little bit of help from the defense there. So those are the 2 major takeaways that I've been noticing and picking up on as far as trends go for the Wild.
Love it. I think with that, we can turn our attention to what's upcoming. So the next 3 Wild games, we get to play the Hurricanes, who are currently 8-4-0. the Islanders, who are 6-5-2, and the Flames, who are bottom of the barrel in the Western Conference at 3-9-2. Taking a look at these games, they should all be competitive games. I think the game that I am most excited for is watching Matthew Schaefer on the Islanders. He has been tearing it up. He has made the Islanders actually fun to watch. Oh my gosh, I said the F word. It'll be interesting to see how that game plays out, because I feel like both the Wild and the Islanders are typically solid defensive teams. But yeah, before we get into predictions, Veach, any thoughts on the upcoming Wild schedule?
Yeah, the first one's going to be the biggest test for sure. A bit of a road trip here for Carolina and New York before they come back home. Goaltending is something that they haven't really had to deal with in terms of a stalwart, maybe a couple games. But I think Carolina is sitting at 2.25 goals against per game, third in the nation, and that's, or I guess third in the NHL, I should say, because it's more than one nation. But it's kind of a little bit more of a test for the guys. You might need a couple more shots on net, specifically referring to what I was talking about before in that third period, and just kind of peppering goalies. When we were in that slump and only getting 12 to 15 shots a game, that's not going to cut it in that game. And so getting them is going to be a primary focus for me, or it would be if I were in that locker room telling guys what we were looking for. And unfortunately, that's going to be really hard to do, because I think they've got Riley, and I can't remember the other defenseman's name right now, but they're shutdown defenders for Carolina. I think both of them are sitting at a plus 10 or 12 when I looked yesterday. And so it's going to be a big test. If they can squeak out a win there, my perception of the Wild, at least for the short term, changes a little bit for sure. If they can remain competitive, I'll be happy. And then if they lose outright, I won't be surprised, but I'll still be a little bit bummed. But yeah, as far as other games, Schaefer is obviously a guy I would love to see. I think the New York Islanders are still the Minnesota Islanders in my eyes when we're talking about guys like Barzal and
Horvat
and
Cal Clutterbuck.
No, who's
Casey Cizikas, Matt Martin.
Whatever. It's the Minnesota Islanders. It always will be to me until they have a massive roster turnover.
Yeah. Let's go into predictions for this week, and because I want to spend some time, Veach, on college hockey. I did a little bit of prep work, and I want to make sure that we give the college hockey audience the attention that it deserves. But what are your thoughts on these next 3 games? Wins, losses, points, predictions. What do you see?
I've got it written down for the next 4, because San Jose, I believe, is on the 11th, so it'll be right before we get back in here. So I've got loss against Carolina, just because I'm kind of a pessimist there, and then I've got rifling off 3 wins in a row, which is I've turned the corner into being a full optimist. I know I was more optimistic than you guys last week, and it kind of worked out in terms of the points that we saw. So I got to stick with it. I got to say, we're going to get, a bit of a shellacking against Carolina, and then turn it back on against New York, Calgary, and San Jose.
Veach, as one of the most negative men I've ever met in my life, I'm very proud of you.
I'm not negative. I'm just a pessimist.
There's a difference. You're maturing at your age. It's really quite nice to see.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to be real with things.
Honestly.
Veach, I am right there with you. Lost at the Hurricanes. I don't see the Wild breaking down their defensive zone structure, which is man on man, which is a very hard structure to play. For those of you that don't know, it's probably the most physically tolling, making sure that you are accounting for a guy in the defensive zone as opposed to more of a zone structure, where you're taking away specific points of ice. And then I have us rattling off a win against the Islanders, win against the Flames. And I did have the Sharks noted here as well, that I hope we rebound after that game that I was at. That was an overtime loss. So I think the Wild might be finding their stride after this week. A lot more positivity this week and going into next week, which is great to see. So I think with that, we can jump into college hockey talk.
Let's do it.
Veach,
Yeah.
you can kick us off. I do have a couple of notes on some of the larger series that you outlined last week, but
Sure.
you take it away and you run the show here.
All right, weekly review of the top 20. I'm just going to go down really quick here. Michigan State, Michigan, Penn State, Western Michigan. So, it's not top 3 for Michigan anymore. Penn State kind of disrupts that a little bit. Quinnipiac still at number 5. We'll get to why that's surprising, but also not surprising at the same time, or why that could change very quickly. Maine, UMD jumps all the way up to 7. Leapfrogs UND at 8. Denver,
Dogs.
Wisconsin, go Dogs. UConn at 11, BU all the way down to 12, UMass, Northeastern, Providence. So we're getting into the eastern section of the top 20 here. And then you get into Minnesota State jumping back up to 16, Cornell, BC, Ohio State, and Colorado College rounding it off there. That's the USCHO rankings. I think on the bottom there, it differs a little bit for USA Hockey. And they do have, like I mentioned before, Miami ranked at 20 there. So biggest changes over the weekend. Maine jumps up 6 spots all the way to 6. I think that has to do quite a bit with their win over BU on the weekend. On the flip side of that, BU drops down 7 spots to 16. And then BC also falling 7 spots there to 18 overall. And then, Wisconsin up 4, UMD up 3. Wisconsin got the sweep over Minnesota, and I think that's the best spot that we could start things off here. 2-5 loss on, I think it was Thursday night, and then Saturday 0-4 loss to Wisconsin for the Golden Gophers of Minnesota. That's 0-4 in their last 4 against UMD and Wisconsin. 2 of their bigger rivalry series all year, and then you go back to North Dakota, which I think was right before UMD, and they split that one. So to go 1-5 against your 3 arguably biggest rivals on the year is tough for the Gophers, and I think it's a bit of a shock to a lot of the fan base overall. But there's still room for improvement. I would say that they still have, maybe the biggest opportunity to, come back up in the rankings quickly, just because the Big Ten has the highest winning percentage of any of the interconference play for any conference this year. Any thoughts on that series or Minnesota overall?
Yeah, I actually had a discussion point on the Gophers getting swept against the Badgers, and something that I'm just kind of wondering and would love your take on. Do you think any of the Gophers' early-ish season struggles are related to kind of how that program's run? The way that I've always kind of thought of the Gophers, and back in the early 2000s, they were always competitive and competing for a national title. But I think ever since Motzko has come and been the coach, I don't know if this is accurate, but the statement that I would say is that the Minnesota Golden Gophers program is trying to get guys ready for the NHL. Their goal is not to necessarily compete and win national championships. Now, that can be argued. Like, they are a competitive team and they're good. But the way that I've seen this program transition ever since being younger is that I feel like that they're putting more of an emphasis on getting guys ready for the NHL. So would love to open up that can of worms with you.
It's hard for me to say that they aren't focused on competing, just given that they recently lost a national championship in overtime, have had multiple deep runs in the playoffs, and have been a significantly better team than the end of the Lucia era after, what is it, like 1 or 2 years of Motzko. I think this is his worst year since the one that he started taking over. I think what the problem is for them this year is youth and inexperience. They lost quite a bit of their scoring, their larger guys, their team leaders this past offseason, to early exits, to graduation, to all sorts of different things. And they just didn't have the guys coming in to a point where they would be able to contribute right away. And that's what we've seen is the inability to score at the rate that they're used to in the past. And I do think that changes quite rapidly. I think what's happening in Minnesota right now looks eerily familiar to a Bulldogs fan in what we saw last year. maybe they didn't have, the number one recruiting class in the nation like UMD was deemed to have last year, but they have some really high end recruits, and they're just too young to be competing with some of the teams that they're going up against so far. I don't think it is doomed to stay that way all season. I think that there's some turnover and some inconsistency at the goalie position that also UMD dealt with last year. And so there's just a few things that they need to figure out as far as lines that work, getting some guys healthy, and then changing the style of play that some of these kids have not probably dealt with before. What I will say as far as the outlook for the program as a whole is Motzko has been really, really focused on the recruiting compared to the Lucia management era. And as far as what they can expect for the next 2 years, might be better than just about anybody in the nation. Now, that is to say, that is leaving out the fact that Penn State and Michigan State and some of these other, Big Ten specific colleges, but other colleges in general have opened up their pocketbook and is approaching it a little bit different. But even with that, the recruits that Minnesota has on the books for commitments is very impressive, and I don't think it will be long for them in the depths of the bottom half of the Big Ten, or sitting outside of the rankings.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, because as kind of an outside perspective, I bleed and die for the Bulldogs, which I do want to talk about here in a second.
Appreciate it.
And the Gophers, I kind of like to see them suffer a little bit.
I'm loving this,
Just
dude.
a little bit of humble pie.
Just a little bit. So that's helpful, because myself and another coach were actually talking about the Gophers last night, and we're curious about the program. So I told him I was going to ask you on tonight's show. So I did my job, had my guy. Let's talk about the series that this podcast truly cares about.
Yeah.
The Bulldogs and the North Dakota hockey team. My talking point for this, or my discussion question for you is, were you surprised at how big of a jump the Bulldogs had by splitting a series with North Dakota? And maybe take me through your thoughts of why the Bulldogs jumped up so much after just a split, not a sweep.
Yeah, so I think what is happening with the national rankings there, UMD was coming into the game at 10, and I think North Dakota was at 8, which is where North Dakota stayed. UMD leapfrogs them, jumps up to 7, at least as far as USCHO goes. And it's a trend I've seen outside of that series as well. It's kind of across the board here. It's the voters realizing that the NPI, which is new this year, taking over for the Pairwise, has significantly different rankings than what they've got, and they're realizing that that's the only one that's going to matter come, we'll just say, the new year, or Christmas, or whatever your delineation between first half and second half of the season actually is. And so they're trying to migrate a little bit closer and closer to that, and I think they're just going a little bit too fast, and putting a focus on that a little bit too much, because yes, UMD has one of the best NPI calculatable numbers in the nation, but that doesn't necessarily mean to me that you need to jump or put them above UMD. There is still the eye test that needs to be taken into account, and you can still make that move a little bit slower. We've got a month before people start taking that seriously anyway. So if you're just putting some names and numbers down to what you're actually seeing on the ice versus trying to match that, it's going to come off a lot better to the people that are looking at the polls. So I don't want to talk UMD out of that 7th ranking. I think they do have, the best, arguably, or the second best, at least, line in the nation in Plant Shagabe. I think that Ty Hansen and Kleber are incredible. I think outside of a tough night against North Dakota on Saturday, Adam Guyon has been one of the best goaltenders in the nation. So I am very happy that they're getting some national respect. I saw some of the Spit and Chicklets guys that covered college hockey for 5 minutes a week when they do it, had the Bulldogs ranked as high as 4 or 5 there, which I thought was very generous and nice. But I still do like a little bit of that underdog mentality. They are a very, very impressive and fun team. I want them to be hungry still. I don't want them to jump up too fast. And think that they're going into a series as a favorite when in the NCHC, you might have a higher ranking than somebody, but every one of these series could go either direction, especially with Miami being significantly better this year. So need them to stay hungry, but a lot of why UMD jumped UND after this past weekend has to do with people trying to match their rankings to what the NPI is saying. And part of that is because Minnesota just got swept by Wisconsin. Minnesota swept with UND. And so their NPI ranking goes down quite a bit, and UMD's isn't hurt by Minnesota getting swept at all. So that's probably why you're seeing a little bit of a difference there. So for people that didn't watch or weren't able to, UMD had a 4-3 overtime win against North Dakota on Friday, and it was 1-5 loss against North Dakota on that Saturday to close out the series there. What I will say that bugged me about this series was similar to what we talked about with the Wild, is UMD's inability to close out North Dakota and giving up that extra attacker goal. I would have liked a full, 3 points on the weekend versus just the 2 that they got. I think only getting 2 puts them in the bottom 3 teams in the NCHC, I think. And I don't like that. So I know that the guys don't like that either. I think it was talked about, especially after the Saturday series by numerous people on the team and on the staff, that they need to have a little bit more piss and vinegar in the way that they play, for lack of a better phrase. But I think that it was good overall. I'm happy to get a win against North Dakota after losing 8 in a row. But I would have liked to see a full 3, at least a true split come out of that series versus just the 2 points.
So, Veach, I got a question for you as a Bulldog historian. Is this the best first line you've seen since the Conley-Fontaine line? Because it might be.
That is the next one back that you would have to go to. And I will have to wait until the end of the year just to see, if they're able to maintain the success to take that title from those 3. But if we see this line continue the production that they've had, I think you're going to have Max Plant being in the Hobey Baker conversation.
Without a doubt.
I think that you're going to have a really, really hard time saying that UMD in the NCHC, the way that they play, doesn't have the best line in college hockey. You'd be silly to say otherwise, I think.
Totally agree. It's so cool, man. I was bitching about the Dogs, because I want them to do well, and I love being wrong sometimes,
Yeah, same.
The other series, and Veach, you kind of touched base upon it, but the other note that I had here, and then can kind of let you take the reins back over, BC getting swept by Northeastern. I don't know if that caught you as a surprise. I haven't seen any of those games, but a nice weekend for Northeastern sweeping a ranked opponent.
Yeah, but Boston in general hurting a little bit, and that's funny saying it because Northeastern is just right there with those other 2 schools as well. It just doesn't have it in the title of the university. So Beanpot's going to be fun this year for sure.
Yeah.
But BC, BU both having rough weekends against Northeastern and against Maine, and it does catch me off guard a little bit just based on the preliminary rankings coming into the season. I think both of them were top 5, if not top 6 teams. And so to see them having struggles this far into the season is shocking a little bit. And the Hockey East in general is having a down year compared to what they had last year, which was the highest season that they've had in quite a while as well. But they're sitting at .559 win percentage in interconference play. And a lot of it has to do with some of those BC losses to Denver, or BU losses to whoever it was that took them off in week 2, I believe it was. And so I'm not overly shocked by it. I think Northeastern was not criminally underranked, but certainly underranked given, the talent that they've got on their team and the goaltending that they've been getting so far this year. But I don't know that they're going to go under the radar for much longer. I think it's pretty obvious now that they're here to stay and compete for a ranked position in national news. So it's one that I thought would be closer to a split for sure, but not something that I would have ever thought was out of the realm of possibilities.
Sure. Well, I'll turn it back over to you for any other key games from the past weekend. And then
Sure.
if you want to jump into kind of what's upcoming, and then just, I think you last week went over kind of the top 20 rankings, and so can round out that college hockey talk.
Perfect. Last week, we're just going to rifle through these ones. Penn State sweeps Ohio State. I think that one I said was going to be Penn State's true first test. I think it was Penn State's true first test.